the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the God.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
To those that are here and to those that are coming. It seems to be that we have people that keep coming, which is good. Whenever you come, you come. You're welcome here. Amen?
Amen.
That's right. So, welcome our subscribers. We are cresting 80 subscribers right now. It's amazing. And we're so thankful to have you with us. And all those who tune in above and beyond that have never heard us before, Shabbat Shalom. You are just as much a part of our Shabbat service as those that are here with us. We value you. You're important. We consider you just as much a part of Beit Torah. Really, we do. And I'm driven and moved, regardless of how many people are here, to every week bring forth the Parsha message for you and for you, because you're both looking forward to it. And so, if there's nobody here and it's just me, which has happened over the past 12 years, I'm still going to preach the message, bring forth the Parsha study. So, just so you know, I'm here. I'll be here. By the grace of God, I ain't going anywhere. So, all right? So, welcome. Shalom, shalom. The Parsha for today is Hukkat, which means regulation. And we're going to cover, it's a dual portion because in the regular years we're to do Hukkat and Balak, which we all know who Balak is, and Balaam, and the speaking donkey. You know, I won't say the other word, but they're synonymous. Okay. But this portion covers basically the red heifer, which is in many ways a mysterious thing, and in many ways a shadow that our people, for some reason, even today, can't wrap their arms around, can't wrap their brains around. It seems like we're stuck in some kind of abstract intellectual, processing of who the red heifer is and what God's purpose was for it, not just in the wilderness, but for all time, for the future. And what part it played in God's plan to redeem the world, tikkun olam, to restore it. The red heifer is a pivotal point in Judaism, in our people, to restore all things. It is the agent that restores holiness. Did you know that? It embodies a key figure in history. It's tied to recognizing that a transition had to take place from the means of bringing forth atonement for the sins of man, which that system, the first system, was inadequate for time and for the world to acquire reconciliation and shalom with Yehovah, the Father. And so I'm going to cover the red heifer and the key elements that surround the symbology that points to that which is coming. And I pray that Yehovah opens all of your eyes to see Yehovah's plan. It's really not that complicated. Abraham got it. God said, because you believed, I've accounted that to you for righteousness. And so the whole message of the red heifer, just look at the concrete elements, use common sense, rationale. 1 plus 1 is 2. Okay, what did the concrete red heifer represent? We're going to look at that. What did it accomplish? What was its purpose? And it was needed in order to purify and redeem and restore God's house. All the people that have been chosen to enter into God's house. Remember, He chose us. We didn't choose Him. Not because we were the greatest or the smartest. He gave us some smarts, I will admit that. Okay? And it's proven itself out. But that's because we're seeking Torah. And when we seek Torah, God blesses us. And so, I think that all comes with it. It says that through Abraham, his descendants will bless all the nations, and we're doing that. And so, just look at the simplicity of what God is saying here, and the prophetic shadow that He is projecting into the future in order that He can restore the whole world and all the nations. It's not about us. It's about Him and His plan, and we ought to get on board with Him. We ought to recognize the simplicity and yet the complexity of how He's woven everything together down through the ages, and how we were a key element in that manifesting itself and materializing. What we went through and are going through materially, physically, concretely allows the rest of the world to see the purpose of the red heifer and what it represents and what it became from this time, 1,500 years forward. A Moshiach appeared as it was prophesied. The reality is, as Jews, we were all looking for this Moshiach at the right time. Now, how's that? How is it that within Israel and Judaism, the prophets, the leadership, the common man, we all knew that the Moshiach was on the verge of revealing Himself and coming. The same thing exists today. The Moshiach is at and on the verge of coming and revealing Himself. And so there's a parallel here. But understand His purpose. And I said this last week and I'll say it again. There's no way that the bulls and goats needed to redeem mankind. There's not 8 billion of them out there. And the sacrifices needed to be done to produce the result that God in that first system created is inadequate. It says it in the Torah. It cannot accomplish the final goal that God has. And what is that final goal? The redemption, the forgiveness, the atonement of our disobedience, mankind's. Understand, this is about Jehovah's creation, not just us the Jews. He just decided that because of Abraham and Abraham's obedience and faithfulness and trusting, that through Abraham, he was going to bring forth salvation to the nations, who at that time rejected it, but God's plan extended out into where we are 2,000 years ago and where we are today. And we got to get real with ourselves and understand that this isn't about the Jews. And it's not about the Christians. It's not about any religion. It's about God and the means by which He planned to redeem and restore the world. All the nations He loves. But He decided that we as Yehuda, those who are of praise and thanksgiving unto Yehovah, that through us salvation would come to mankind. That we would be the light that points the way to the Moshiach, that would give his life, shed his blood as a final atonement for past, present, and future sins of mankind, for all peoples. Except we kind of lag behind a little bit. I think we gotta wake up, because now's the time. The Moshiach is at the door, and he's knocking. I encourage you to open the door, but let's look at the red heifer here and what it represents and what it's pointing to. Okay? It says in Bimidbar 19, beginning with verse 1, Adonai said to Moshe and Aharon, "This is the regulation from the Torah which Yehovah has commanded. This is a mitzvah. Tell the people of Israel to bring you a young red female cow without fault or defect, and which has never borne a yoke." Now that's a steep I can't think of a word, charge to fill, a steep order to fill. And so, if you're not aware of this, which most Jews are, but if you're a goyim, a Gentile, a Christian, whatever faith you happen to follow, this required a young red female cow. And not just any red female cow, not with red with a little white spot over here. Oh, they won't see that. No. No, this had to be a perfect, unblemished, perfectly red cow, heifer. And even today, now there hasn't been an unblemished, perfect red heifer for thousands of years in Israel. And just now, we have them. And they go through and check all the hairs to see there's not a one that is off color from being pure red. Perfect. Can you imagine that? That's a steep bill. A steep order to meet. And then it has to be without any kind of physical defect, including, of course, the color of their coat. and it has to have never borne a yoke. In other words, it had never had been used to work or to labor in any form of what cattle can do. Okay? Now, let me ask you a question. Does that sound the characteristics? Now let's just be rational. If we look at the characteristics of this red heifer, it's perfect, unblemished, never was a yoke put on its head, it's never labored or worked. Who does that symbolically represent someone that comes to mind? The Moshiach. That's just the beginning. A cow without fault or defect. Perfect. Secondly, you are to give it to Eleazar the Kohen. It is to be brought outside the camp and slaughtered in front of the Kohen. Now, in history, who was taken outside the camp, outside the city, set apart from the community, and slaughtered, eviscerated?
The goat.
Totally with a crown of thorns, with 9 tails, with iron on the ends of it. Know of anybody in history?
The sacrificial goat.
I don't think there's a long list. I only know of one. And, there was others that were tortured on the Roman torture stakes, but they weren't without fault or defect, and they were not characterized by never being burdened by the things of this world. That yoke, a yoke is a weight, it's a burden. The Moshiach never had to deal with the burdens of this beast system. He endured them. And how? Well, because he was perfect. He was part divine and part human.
He was fully human.
Set apart. Perfect. And he was tortured and maimed and sacrificed outside the camp, outside the community. Now, Eleazar the Kohen, it says, is to take some of its blood with his finger and sprinkle this blood toward the front of the tent of meeting 7 times. That's significant. We need to understand that God is very conscious of the order in which he has constructed and the structure that he has created through which he is speaking. He speaks through numbers. And we see a common thread with the number 7 and what it represents. It represents divine perfection. So we're taking the blood of this red heifer, and it's to sprinkle what? The Mishkan, the tent of meetings. Well, who dwells in the tent of meetings? Yehovah, It's being purified and cleansed from the being present in this world. It's the number 7 represents spiritual completion. The tent of meeting is the harbinger, the carrier, the catapult that is bringing a spiritual completion to the world. It's the culmination of the natural order. It's a sacred bridge between the physical world and the heavens. God in the heavenlies. It serves as God's signature, the number 7. How do we know that? The 7th day is the day Jehovah declared the day of Shabbat, of rest. After 7 years, the Shemitah is a time for rest, to allow the land to rest. After 49 years, 7 times 7, the Jubilee, all things are restored. So 7 is a very important number, that the blood is sprinkled. Where else do we know that blood has been sprinkled? What other event in the history of the Jewish people was blood sprinkled?
Passover.
Upon the doorpost, before they left Egypt, before they were delivered out of Egypt. When else? At Mount Sinai, when we were offered up as the bride of Jehovah, the marriage supper. So now we have the 3rd time the blood's being sprinkled here. So, you see, the number 7 represents the foundational concept for 6 days of creation is paired with the 7th day, the Sabbath. It elevates the physical world from 6 spatial directions to include a spiritual center, which is the 7th day. 6 days, 7. 6 days, 7. It's the center. Everything surrounds the world, the creation surrounds that 7th day, and it's set apart. The letter Zion in Hebrew, the alphabet consonant Zion, is the number 7 because grammatically all the Hebrew letters represent a number. Okay? And that letter resembles a sword or a crown. It represents spiritual sustenance and the glory of God. This is as you look into the depth of the meaning and go below the surface of the Hebrew words, the Hebrew letters, and understanding the movements, the motions of writing them. That's not uncommon in Middle Eastern, Asian culture. You look at Japanese or Chinese, and all their writings create an image that all those strokes mean something. So it's not uncommon. In Hebrew, Hebrew words mean something. If you look at Paleo-Hebrew and you see the imagery before the square Hebrew letters evolved through the process, you see images. And they mean something concrete and physical.
Hieroglyphs.
That's what I want to point out. If you just look at Hebrew and say, oh, they made that up. No. No, they didn't make that up. No. It started with the writings in the ancient days of expressing themselves. We have hieroglyphics. It's the same thing. But we have Semitic Hebrew images. And it's evolved over time. And so the geometric examples, as I said, number 7 also represents the realm of the natural. The number 8 represents transcending the natural world as seen in the 8-day festival of Hanukkah or Sukkot. 7 rules over the rhythms of the earth. And what are the rhythms?
Day, week, day and night.
7 days in a week. That's the rhythm. 7 days in a week. The musical scale has 7 notes. The colors of the rainbow are 7. Do you see? God has constructed a pattern through which He's telling us something. It says, the heavens declare the glory of God. And I said this last week, glory, the glory of God is clearly described by God because Moses wanted to see the glory of God. And God said, okay, I will. He didn't say, I'll let my glory pass before you. He said, I will put you in the cleft of the rock, cover you with my hand, and you will see my goodness pass by. My goodness. Not flashy lights and everything, but my goodness. What embodies goodness?
God.
Well, He said, I am the God of mercy, grace, compassion, loving kindness, long-suffering. That's goodness. Our God embodies that. And it's contained within the number 7. Isn't that interesting? How many lamps on the menorah? 7. I didn't go into everything, but that just comes to mind. I'm sure there's many more. But my whole focus here is that the red heifer is a shadow, a reflection of what God's going to do. And He's conveying that through the Jews, through our sacrifices. Okay? It's associated, gematria examples associated with 7. Now, it means good fortune, favor, God's goodness. Okay? Abundance. Multiples of 7 carry immense symbolic weight. The Hebrew word for blessing is mazel tov, good luck. Not in our culture and our modern time what we think about when we say good luck. No, it was mazel tov. Okay? Good blessings to you. Which, when you look at the numerical value of the Hebrew words, it's 40 plus 7 plus 30 equals 77. It's a double blessing. We talked about the sabbatical cycle, the Shemitah, the sabbatical year occurs every 7th year. The resting of the land, God's ultimate dominion, the 7-fold cycle of the counting of the Omer, okay, for the holiday of Shavuot. And so, do you see the reflection? Do you see the shadow? Do you see the shadow? When we see something that is concretely taking place, that has elements that point to something in the future that characterizes those same concrete elements, it should cause us to pay serious attention. And maybe, just maybe, the creator of the universe is saying something. And that's what I challenge you as Jews and Gentiles to take seriously. Because I'll give you another example. In a different vein, it says in Tehillim, the Psalms, the heavens declared the glory of God. You know, the first prophecy in Scripture didn't occur by a prophet, nor was it written down. When you follow the movement of the stars, there's a prophetic message there. In the concrete elements of ancient astrology. Ancient astrology was astronomy, not like what we have today where they tell you what's going to happen to you. It's totally different. It's so distorted, and the evil one has taken and deceived many by twisting it and contorting it. It's real simple. The astrological chart is ancient, goes back thousands of years, and it represents the heavens. And it declares the movements and the meaning of God's prophetic plan of bringing salvation to the world. It's written in the book of Revelation. Okay? And that's another subject, maybe some other time we can survey. But we see that the heifer is then burned to ashes before the Kohen's eyes. Verse 5. Its skin, meat, blood, and dung is to be burned to ashes. The Kohen is to take, now this is really important, cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet yarn, and throw them onto the heifer as it is burning up. Now, you see, the point here is that the red heifer is seen as a prophetic shadow of the coming Moshiach, Yeshua. There's no one else in history that has encountered and experienced the parallel elements and symbology that we're seeing here in this Parsha. And we'd be fools to not pause and see the parallel imagery and message. It's the same message. You see, the red heifer was utterly perfect, but it was sacrificed outside the camp to deal with the ultimate contamination of death. Let me say that again. The red heifer, Yeshua, the red heifer was sacrificed outside the camp to deal with the ultimate contamination of death. For it is appointed unto man once to die, and then the resurrection. We all are going to die someday. Death is a byproduct of disobedience to the Creator. We weren't created that way. We weren't meant to be that way. That's why God had to dispel us from the garden. We disobeyed Him. And And so somebody had to pay the price. The law is, in God's book, who is a just God, is that there must be a accountability for life that's been destroyed. And by disobeying God, and by being in the garden, which was set apart, pure and holy, sinless, perfect, it brought death. God had to pull back. We call that simsum in Judaism. Like we see in the beginning, darkness was upon the face of the deep. It wasn't that way prior to that. The world, there was no darkness. The light of the presence and the Shekinah glory of God permeated all creation. And when the rebellion, the disobedience took place in the heavenlies, the light disappeared. God pulled back. Then there was a pause. What happened during then? We don't know. But I referenced the scripture in Revelation that says, the Lamb was slain before the foundation of the world. And if the world is his creation, in the spiritual realm, Yeshua was slain before the foundation of the world. Remember, there's an order in the universe. Everything that we experience begins in the spiritual realm. Nothing in your life exists now that it didn't originate in the spiritual realm. And I can show you scripture verses where that verifies that. We see events throughout the books of Kings, and where the physical realm with like Ahab and Jezebel, there was a meeting in the divine courts of heaven over what their outcome was going to be. And we get a picture of, in the heavenlies, the destiny of Ahab and Jezebel. And what was decided in the heavenlies took place on the earth. Ahab was killed in battle, and Jezebel was removed. It was decided in the courts of heaven. It's important we understand that. So wherever you're at in your life right now, it originated in the heavenlies. And God allowed it for a reason. And you ought not militate against God and all the people that are part of your circumstances. You need to step back and say, God, what are you doing? I want to be echad with you and work with you to see your plan and your purpose, that you want to work through me and the people in my sphere of influence, what your plan is to bring forth. I don't want to destroy it. I don't want to fight against you. I got to step back. I got to listen. Listen more and talk less. Really. And stop judging. The things that irritate and anger you and upset you and cause you to bring forth judgment on people. So you're not the judge. You're stealing God's rightful role in the life of that person by judging them. That doesn't mean you don't deal with issues. between right and wrong. It doesn't mean you don't confront things, but it means that you don't judge that person and condemn them.
Well, we do.
That's not for us to do.
Yeah, no, we do.
Yeshua said, I didn't come to condemn you. God sent me to reconcile you. You want to know what your ministry is? Paul makes it clear. You, he said, and I forget what church or what community that he was speaking to, he said, you have been given the ministry of reconciliation. Not condemnation, not judgmentalism, not criticalness, not vengeance. That's God's responsibility. And when we take hold of that in situations in our life, we're stealing from God. We're telling Him we know better how to mete out justice than you. That's wrong. It's gonna come right back on you. And so you need to humble yourself. And you need to, what does it say? Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who use you. That's what Yeshua did. How do you think God's going to transform us if we don't choose to do good?
It has to come from
He says, no greater love is this, than the man that lays down his life for his friend. Laying down your life does not mean you have to die. It's not a physical thing. Could be an emotional thing. Could be a mental thing. It could be a material possession thing. We had a woman here, you all remember her. She's not with us anymore. But she asked for prayer. And to anoint her, and I did. And the Lord made clear to me that she needed to lay down the material elements that were the source of the issues that brought about division and strife and discord. Lay it down. It's not yours to begin with. Lay it down. Whatever else you're struggling with in your life, with whatever or whoever, lay it down. Are you praying for them? Are you hoping for them to be healed, to be restored, to be transformed? Are you praying that God would send people into their lives to challenge them, that would have the very miracle-laden words that will cause themselves to humble themselves and repent and turn to Jehovah?
God's will be done.
It's easy to speak negative about people. It's easy to indict people for their wrongdoing. We're all inclined to do that. Because part of us, we want vengeance. God said, that's not for you. Because you do not have the capacity to be just and righteous. I am righteous. I, Jehovah, am the righteous one that only can truly, mercifully, graciously, compassionately reconcile.
Completely.
I didn't give you that ability to do that. You're not the judge. He's the judge.
Amen.
You should be praying for mercy and reconciliation. Do good. Just do good to whoever it is that has hurt you, done wrong to you. Do good to them. Just do good. Whatever that means.
But if they don't accept it,
Regardless, they didn't accept Yeshua's love. They spit in his face.
yeah.
But he still did it. That's what we need to do. I'll never forget when I was 17. I was going into McDonald's after a youth event, and I don't remember exactly how it happened, but somebody else going into McDonald's, maybe a ruffian kind of a person, maybe a youth like me, maybe not a believer, was rude in entering in, and it could have turned into a confrontation. And I never forget this. I just remember look at him and say, God bless you. Even though he was, how should I say,
Rough.
what's the word? You can tell I'm getting old. He was confrontational. He was rude. He was looking for a fight. And I said, God bless you, brother. Go ahead. Despite all that angry look on his face and everything else, that's what we need to do. God bless you. I want the best for you, because the person I'm seeing is not really you. The evil one's got a hold of you, and he's got his teeth in you, and he's ripping you apart. And you don't know how to get out of it. And I'm helping him with my attitude. I'm helping him. Woe is me. Bless him. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who treat you wrong. Not once, not twice, but 7 times 70.
Whoa.
Look, I want to be honest. We're human. We run out of those 7s. Isn't it interesting? We were talking about 7s here. 7 times 70. Here's the 7 again. It's a number that weaves through God's character. So, now we see that within the burning of the heifer outside the camp, which we see the parallel in Yeshua, we see that the cedar wood, okay, well, let me finish up with the parallels, okay. See, the red heifer was completely unblemished, not a single defect. And Yeshua is described as the spotless lamb, right? No blemishes. Come on. Come on. This isn't that complicated, okay? It's not a mystery, but it is. It's not a genius 180 number puzzle that you got to put together. You got to be a genius with a score of 180 to figure it out. This is not a calculus problem, okay, or a chemistry problem where you see professors with all these writings and calculations on the blackboard. It's not that. It's pretty simple. A lamb that's white without blemish, meaning there's no black hairs on it, or it's got no defects. And the red heifer, Same thing. No discoloration, just red. Isn't it interesting that it's red and blood is red? Do you think God was simply saying something there?
No.
This red heifer is the ultimate sacrifice. Do you see? I'm trying to tell you, the life is in the blood, and without the shedding of blood, there's no forgiveness of sins. He even made the heifer's coat red. I don't know. I'll be honest, I'm not real good at riddles and figuring them out and, crossword puzzles. I guess some of us aren't real good at figuring this one out. Some of us are real smart and we can't figure this out. And we ask that Jehovah pour out His Spirit upon you and remove the scales from your eyes and open your ears to hear. But you got to want to. As in Yirmiyahu, what did Jehovah say? He said, when you seek me, God said, my plans for you are good. But He followed that with saying, my plans for you are good. And if you seek me, when you seek me with all your heart, then you'll find me. And I will reveal to you the mysteries of who I am. Is it possible one of the mysteries is staring us right in the face with this red heifer that was a shadow of the Moshiach, the sacrificed lamb, embodied in the man of Yeshua, who followed the same course that the red heifer did, so God could purify mankind and restore mankind? He never bore a yoke. He was never put to work, the red heifer. And Yeshua was never in sin or bondage to the religious system of his day. He challenged it because mankind had created his own traditions, which totally distorted who Jehovah was and the spirit of who He was, His heart towards His people. He was sacrificed outside the camp, as we said. And you find that elaborated on in Hebrews 13 and in Hebrews 9. You see, the red heifer used a mixture of water to purify those who had become unclean by contact with the dead. All humanity has come in contact with the dead. The wages of sin, disobedience, rebellion is death.
Whoa.
The wages of sin, rebellion, and disobedience is death. That's what it says. And we are in a process of entropy. We are dying. I can't do what I did when I was 18. I'm 68 now. I just don't have it. The wages of sin is death. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. let me add or use a different word there that is relevant to the glory of God. For all have sinned and fallen short of the goodness of God. You want to know God's goodness? You got to be resurrected. You have to come to terms with your condition. If you don't, you're just cold. You're a corpse. You're a walking dead. People don't. I know. I remember when it came on when I was a kid. The night of the Walking Dead. Boy, that scared the living daylights out of me. I hated that movie. My sister wanted to watch it. You know? Well, you couldn't kill them. You couldn't stop them because they were dead. But they were still moving around, creating havoc.
Yeah. I know a lot of that.
Something had to come along in the order of Judaism and the sacrificial system and the Mishkan to purify. Purity doesn't just appear. Purification doesn't come from something that's unclean. Every one of the people in the wilderness were unclean. They weren't pure. That's just the real world. You see, the real pureness of Yehovah that pulled back when Adam and Hava disobeyed his instruction. No one could ever reach the point of holiness and purity of Yehovah. That's why he had to pull back and remove them from the garden and put an angel around the tree of life. Why do you think God, now here's another thing, to illustrate how Yeshua took our place and bore our disobedience, rebellion, and sin. When he was on the torture stake, the key phrase that astounds everyone, if you can imagine it, he's hanging there dying. The life flowing out of him. He had all his life expressed, I see what my Father's doing, and I do it. I hear my Father's voice. Have you ever been abandoned?
Yeah.
Do you know what it's like to be abandoned?
Yeah.
I don't come anywhere close to it, but I've experienced being abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
I know the feeling, the emotion,
Mm-hmm.
when there's no means to communicate but with your emotion. My mother abandoned me when I was 18 months old.
Wow.
I know what that feels like. I've borne the consequence of that all my life. I've been healed and delivered and redeemed. The sting isn't there anymore. The pain isn't there anymore. But my experience is nothing compared to what Yeshua experienced on the torture stake. When he cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? That was his humanity.
It was a song.
His divinity was humbled and surrendered to the Father at the cost of his life. Do we understand what he did? It was no light thing.
No. Not at all.
You see, the heifer was burned with cedar, hyssop, and scarlet wool. Isn't it interesting? The torture stake was wood. And so was
Cedar?
the hyssop branches. So was the cedar. The strongest, biggest tree in the Middle East from Lebanon, the cedars of Lebanon. Why, it's their national symbol. The wood was for purification. The hyssop was the means by which the saving blood of Yeshua. The hyssop was used to purify. Where else do we see that? We see when the firstborn were spared in Egypt. What did they put the blood on the doorposts with? Hyssop. A branch of hyssop. Is that symbolic?
No doubt.
Because the hyssop is what purifies. In Vayikra, without the shedding of blood, there's no forgiveness of sin. The hyssop applies the blood. Cedar is a massive enduring wood. It has incredible resistance to decay. Did you know that?
Yeah.
In the ancient world, it symbolized royalty, pride, and stature. It represents Yeshua, the true royal king, who was nailed to a torture stake to absorb the ultimate judgment of fire on our behalf. The hyssop is small. It's a humble bush used to sprinkle blood or water for purification. We see the first Passover. We see Yeshua thirsting. And they put a sponge and hoisted it up to him with sour wine on a stalk of hyssop. And lifted it up to his mouth. You see, the blood is applied to the human heart with the hyssop, as on the doorpost, as on blood and water flowed out of Yeshua. Folks, this is no coincidence that all these elements reflect one another. That the purpose of the red heifer and the purpose of the sacrificial lamb, Yeshua, accomplish the purification and restoration of the people of Jehovah. Restores the relationship. You see, the torture of Yeshua is believed to have primarily accomplished the atonement and forgiveness of sins for humanity. That's really important, because when the Messianic community and the believers bifurcated in around leading into the 1st and 2nd century and began to separate and form different groups, the Messianic community diminished and the Christian church began to evolve. And fast forward today, we get smart, get saved. Get saved! Well, what did Yeshua's sacrifice really do? It was the atoning blood. It took your place to restore you back to the garden, to be able to enter the presence of a holy God. It accomplished the atonement and forgiveness of sins for humanity at large. God required life for life. The life He breathed into Adam and Eve was destroyed because of their disobedience. So God requires it, just God. And isn't it interesting that Adam was his first son? Well, was Adam born of a woman? No. He wasn't born of water, through water. He was created. The very DNA of Jehovah was filled in his body.
No belly button.
And out of his body came Hava, Eve, that received all that essence of the life of Jehovah, pure and perfect. And our disobedience is what brought about the death of that life, because God is holy. He cannot mix with unholiness, uncleanness. That's why He turned when Yeshua was on the torture stake and He looked away. When Yeshua bore all the sins, past, present, and future of the world, God had to turn away from Him. God had to abandon Him. That's no small thing. As an 18-month-old boy, it's nothing compared to what the Creator of the universe, His only begotten Son. At that time, I was my mother's only begotten son. She didn't have any other boys. I was the first one. But Yeshua was Jehovah's begotten son. God had to abandon him so that He could restore you, and your relationship and ability to seek Him and communicate with Him could be restored. No greater love has a man than to lay down his life for his friend. Did you know Yeshua is your best friend? whether you're a Jew or a Gentile, whatever religion or faith you're from, he laid down his life for you. He gave you the concrete elements to grab hold of the meaning and the depth of what he did in the essence and meaning and the sacrifice of the red heifer. Isn't it interesting that the ashes, total ashes, nothing left, nothing, not a hair, not an eyelid, not a tail, nothing, but the ashes cremated. But that red heifer was mixed with water. And what did it do? It restored the life and purity of a person that came in contact with death. If you touched a dead body of anything, you became impure, unclean, and you needed the sprinkling of the red heifer's ashes and water on you to restore you back to life, spiritual purity within the encampment of the tribes in the wilderness. And isn't it interesting? All the elements of Yeshua we need to be sprinkled with the blood in order to be brought back to life and to know our Creator. I was going to go into chapter 20 and talk about Moses and his debacle with striking the rock rather than speaking to it, but I'll leave that for another occasion, because I just feel that this red heifer is so pivotal to the life of Israel. Some even say that October the 6th, I believe it was. Am I correct with that? Where Hamas attacked Israel was October 6th?
7th.
It was the 7th.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that interesting? One of the things that perpetrated or caused that to come to a no. To come to that point was they feared, there was word that they had a red heifer and they were going to sacrifice it. And had that been the case, that's what drove them to attack. That would have initiated the building of the third temple, because all the elements would have needed to be purified. Isn't that interesting? So, okay. So I'm going to end with that. I think it speaks for itself. And I hope you ponder the content of this parsha. If you were looking forward to hearing about Balak and Balaam, well, I think this precedes it. It does in the Torah. and it does in the things we need to be mindful of in our lives as well. So, thank you. May the God, Jehovah of Shalom, guard your heart and your mind in Messiah Yeshua. Jehovah bless you and keep you. Jehovah make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Jehovah lift up his countenance upon you and give you his shalom. Shabbat shalom. This is Rabbi Moshe from Beit Torah in Schnecksville, Pennsylvania. Thank you for tuning in and being a subscriber. Thank you for coming. We have a few more people here today than we normally have, and that's a blessing. And God willing, that will grow as he sees fit. I'm just here to deliver the message. Not interested in the numbers. So, Jehovah bless you and keep you. Jehovah make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Jehovah lift up his countenance upon you and give you his shalom. Shabbat shalom. If you've been blessed by this message, we ask that you bless us with a gift, a donation. All the information is on our website. All the information is on the YouTube video. I'm sending out a QR code. And we, God knows we need help. But he's been faithful every step along the way to get us through. So, bless you. Shabbat shalom. Thank you.
Hear now, Jacob my servant. Hear now, O Israel. It was